What's up, guys? Welcome to She's Wild and Freed podcast. I am so excited to be back with you recording in my new studio. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I just want to say how grateful I am to be having this opportunity to talk to you today. If you have listened to the podcast before, you know that I haven't posted a new episode in several months. It's been even longer since I recorded. I went through several life transitions, which we'll talk a little bit about that today. But as I was prepping to record and talk to you today, something else came up that I almost feel like I'm like flipping the script on myself, which is hilarious. But again, I am so happy you're here. My name's Jen. I am the host of She's Wild and Freed podcast. I'm the founder of Freed Coaching Co., where I do health and life coaching for women who are in this phase of the messy middle of life. And today, I want to just talk with you about some of the transitions that I've been experiencing. And to start, though, what came to me yesterday as I was going on a run, which, by the way, I love running. I have been out of the game of running for a while too. I started a Couch to 5K program probably 2 months ago. And I'm just so happy to be back out there. It's getting hot here in the South, so definitely sweating a lot, but just moving my body, whether it be walking, running, hiking, it's just something that really, really helps me in my mental state. So what came to me last night, I was on a run, is something that I really wanted to talk to you about. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, hi. I have been on YouTube a bit too, but not actually posting a lot of videos. So this is new for me. I'm not loving the ring light. I know that's something that some people use, but if you have a suggestion for me of something better, especially since I have glasses, I'm looking up if you are not watching the video right now, but I've got these rings in my glasses. Would love a suggestion of what I could use to make it a little bit better and not have these rings as I'm moving my head around, because I talk a lot with my hands, I move a lot, and I'm not loving the ring. But anyway, for those of you listening on audio, doesn't matter. But what came to me yesterday is this message that I really wanted to bring to you today, which is you deserve to enjoy your life. I think we get into the grind of working, parenting, trying to do all the things, and we we miss out on the joy of life. And if you really think about it, we have a very, very small window to be living in this life on this earth. And I just want you to hear this, that you truly believe to enjoy it. So if you're in a spot where you feel stuck, if you feel like you're looping, you're continuing to do a habit that you don't want to do anymore, if you're in a career or a job that's just sucking the life out of you, that you just, it's so hard to get out of bed to just go to that place or to do that thing. If you're in a relationship that just is not for you anymore, if it's going nowhere, your partner's not trying anymore, if your health is not where you want it to be, your fitness, this is your sign. I am posting this video and podcast on the summer solstice, which I always get the dates mixed up. I always think that it's July 21st. So I think it depends on where the sun, the moon, our earth, how we're tilted, all of that is going. So this podcast will be posted on June 21st. But I'm posting it today because this is a reset point. We're through the half, or through the half point of 2025. Maybe you set some goals for yourself at the beginning of the year. Maybe you've been crushing it, which if you are, yes, girl, keep going. Maybe you've kind of gone up and down. You tried something, it didn't work. You've kind of reset, tried again. That's okay. We're here now. And I'm here to say that this is your sign. This is the moment to take that step forward. And whether it be signing up for something, a course, signing up for dance lessons, maybe it's really rethinking your career, your job, where you are now. Maybe it's reaching out to a girlfriend, making connections. That's really something that I have experienced in the last couple of years is the importance of my relationship with my girlfriends. I did not really nurture or keep up with the women in my life for a very long time. Yes, there'd be a text here, a birthday card. We would see each other maybe at an event or a family thing, but I didn't nurture those relationships. And I've really grown to learn in the last couple of years that they're so important. So maybe this is your sign to call that girlfriend, set up some coffee, go watch a movie with them, go for a walk, do something to nurture that relationship and build connection or rebuild connection. So that's the first thing. It came to me, and I really, like I said, I'm flipping the script on myself because I had this outline. And if you've listened to the podcast in the past, number one, I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for going on this journey with me from all the way back in September of 2023 is when I first posted an episode on the podcast. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're new here, welcome. I am so excited to go on a journey with you now. And of course, the podcasts are out there. They're on Apple, they're on Spotify, on YouTube, the audio, as well as a few videos. So check them out. If there's something that speaks to you, one of the episodes I was super proud of that I posted last year was actually within this month of June, which is celebrating Pride Month. So I want to take a moment because I just want to say to all of my friends, my families, the family members in the LGBTQ plus community that I love you and I see you. And I know that we are in strange times and you guys are no stranger to all of the noise, but I want you to know that you have a safe place with me. And if you're interested, go back and listen to that episode where I'm celebrating Pride Month last month. I had just an amazing, beautiful experience with a friend of mine and at work at my previous job. So go check it out if you're interested. The other thing I just wanted to walk through with you all is the transitions we experience in life. So as I mentioned at the top of this episode, I've been through it. I've been through quite a few transitions in the last few years. And what I want to do today is just talk a little bit about each of those. And then we'll dive more deeply into these topics as we go along. My goal is to post an episode once a week on the podcast platforms as well as here on YouTube. So please come back, check out the episodes that speak to you. And, if they don't, we'll see you next time. But the transitions that I've been working through and flowing through in life, number one, I've been going through a separation and now almost divorced from my husband of over 20 years. So technically, we're still married. So in August, it'll be 25 years. We have been separated for over a year, and it's a big one. It's a big life transition. No matter if you've been married for a few years or not married, you've been in a long-term relationship, Or if you're like me, it's over 20 years and you realize that it's just not for you anymore, that you don't even have a relationship. And that's where I was. That's where I was 2 years ago, actually, right in the month of June, where I finally was like, I cannot do this anymore. And I told my husband at the time that I was ready to move on. And that journey since then has been really bumpy. It's been it's hard for me to even express. If you've been through it or if you're going through it now, I know you know what I'm saying. I even talked about this on another episode about experiencing grief. I have been so fortunate to, yes, I've lost some loved ones, but I've not gone through the type of grief that I have in this last couple of years of losing that relationship, that family unit that we had. And it's an interesting one. I even thought I had gone through all the phases of grief. If you're familiar with that, I had gone through the anger and the sadness and the bargaining and all the things. But then a couple of months ago, it hit me again. I just started feeling sad and really mourning what was and where I thought we would be at this point in our lives. And that was tough. And the thing about grief is so interesting is it hits you at different times. And even like I said, I thought I had worked through all that. I had gone through the phases. I had worked through things with my therapist. I had journaled it all out. But it hit me again. And I even started getting mad at myself for being sad or mourning where I thought I'd be or where we would be in our relationship and our family. And that's so normal. So again, if you're going through something like that, or you're grieving the loss of a loved one or something in your life, just know that it's so normal to feel a certain way, feel like you've gotten over it, and then you kind of fall back into the deep end for a bit. My biggest advice to you, if you'd like to hear my advice, is just let it be. Experience that feeling. Like I said, you can journal it out like I did, or talk to a friend or a therapist, because it's natural and normal. So the first transition that I just mentioned is the divorce that I've been going through. We have 3 kids, so that's been an interesting thing to navigate with them, to allow them to have their feelings about it. I have 2 adult children, fairly adults. They're getting there. They're launching, both 20, almost 21. I have twins. And then I have a now 13-year-old son. And they're going through it too, just like I am, like my soon-to-be ex is. So that's one of the topics we'll talk through as we go along in this journey of what I'm calling season 4 of the podcast. Podcasting's so cool because you can really make up your own rules as you go. I just decided to do season 3, and that was a really fun time because I introduced other folks in the podcast through interviewing. So now that we've had this pause since February of 25, I was like, hey, now it's time for season 4. So we'll be talking about divorce, relationships, even maybe dating if I get to that point. I'm ready to do that, or what that means as a middle-aged woman and getting back in the dating scene. Speaking of that, I was talking to a coworker the other day, and I was like, I don't even know what to do. I have not been on a date with a new human since 1999. So much has changed. I'm totally freaked out by the apps, but then I'm like, well, then I'm curious about them. And I'm like, well, maybe I should try it out. Or do I go to these meetups in my community? I don't know. Another girlfriend at work was saying that she's like, they have some stuff in our town, maybe she was talking about her dating and she's like, maybe I should go to these like speed dating events. And I was like, that's kind of scary. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we should go together. So who knows? We'll talk about all of that if I get to that point in my journey here of transitioning from a married person to a single person and then maybe dating again. Who knows? The second transition that I've experienced in the last 6 months, and really the reason why I just had to pause on recording episodes for you is I lost my job. I went through a layoff right at the end of August of 2024. Now, first, this is my first time being on that side of a layoff. Unfortunately, I've been on the other side. I'm an HR professional, so we have a lot of hard conversations and exiting employees. We do a lot of fun stuff too. I don't want, I hate that stigma that HR is like, oh, we're like Darth Vader walking through the hallway or the Emperor. If you're into Star Wars, of like things people just drop off. But we do some fun things too. But yeah, I got on a call with my manager at the time. She had scheduled a one on one, not unusual. She had bumped it up a little earlier. Again, not unusual. I will say what my spidey senses started to tell me, though, is something was up before we even had this call. I was seeing and experiencing that I had less to do at work, which was weird. We're a very busy, very large organization. I supported a pretty big group of people as their business partner, but my days were not as busy. And I would hear other people on these calls and how slammed they were. And I'm like, what's going on? This is strange. And I expressed concern to my manager of just the feeling of uneasiness of like, it just feels like something's going on. I don't like that feeling. I expressed the concern to a couple of the leaders that I worked really closely with, and one in particular, she is a great friend of mine. We formed a beautiful friendship as we were working together, and still have that friendship going today. She was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" Amazing question for a leader to ask someone, especially when they're like, "I am starting to feel like I don't have a place here." And she was like, "You absolutely do. We value you. So let's talk about it." So, anyway, I had gone through some of those conversations in a couple of weeks and then had this call with my manager. And on August 29th, she came on the call. And then another HR leader came on the call. For a split second, I was like, oh, they found things for me to do. They've decided how they want to integrate me into a team, whatever it may be, for a split second until my manager started to read the script. And if you've experienced this, number one, or if you're going through it right now, this is a tough thing to go through, to lose your job when you didn't do anything wrong. Now, if you lost your job, you did something wrong. I know that is a tough thing as well. I have not been through that, but being laid off and going through that job loss transition and job seeking and the ups and downs of it is really, really tough. It's not something that, again, I had experienced before. It's another grieving transition process to go through of first, I'll be honest, at first, when she first started reading the script and I knew exactly what was happening, my heart just started pounding and I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. I'm getting laid off. I'm losing my job today. But then after the call, after we went through the whole thing and they explained the process and yada, 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 I felt a huge sense of calm. I was not happy at that job. I was feeling a lot of things as I was also going through this divorce. and I felt relieved. I did not feel that way the whole time I was unemployed. Please know that. And we will talk through that in another episode. I just wanted to introduce some of these transitions that I've been through to you all, but quite an interesting time. So August, right at the end of August, I was laid off. The next day I went to the beach. I was like, hey, I got a day off. I'm going to the beach on, I think it was a Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. And then went to work of what's next. What is my next move as a professional, as a single mom now, as someone who has journeyed through a 20-year career in HR? I had a lot of things to think about. I don't have to tell you if you've been through this. So many applications later, so many ghostings by recruiters. I was able to land a new job in the early part of 2025. So in February, I started a new job. With that job, the other transition that we experienced as a family is I needed to relocate. The good thing about relocating is we were relocating back to an area that we were very familiar with. So we now live in the Charlotte area. Actually live way outside of Charlotte because I enjoy the country and the peace and quiet. But that was yet again another transition that I was bringing to the family. And just going back to the first one I mentioned, I stayed in that relationship, and frankly, he did too, for our kids. I don't know if you can relate to that, but we were roommates. We were just doing it because we felt so strongly about our family unit and keeping the family together, having family dinners, doing the things that a family does. There was a lot of dysfunction there, but that was what we were so stubborn in that, even though we knew our relationship was over well before 2 years ago. That was just where I got to the point where I was like, this is not going to be the next 20 years of my life. But I knew what it was going to do to our family and our kids specifically. And that was really hard. It was really hard to make that decision, to break up our family, to shift the dynamics. So I know if you have been through it or you're going through it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you're in that space, where you know it's not working anymore, you've known for a while, but you're scared, you don't want to break up your family, you feel so close to other family members who now, and friends even, when couples break up, there's always, they go that way, they go this way. But just really ponder on that. Is this right for you? Is this what you want for the next 20, 30 years, wherever you are in your journey? Is this what you want for your kids? I would say the inflection point for me really, there were several, and again, we'll talk through this at another time. There were several. And when I say talk through this, I'll get way more into the nitty gritty with you, but there were several inflection points. But one of those was I heard an interview on a podcast because I love this platform and I listen to a lot of podcasts. But the interview I heard was Kelly Clarkson on We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and Glennon's sister. And I can't remember her name right now. She calls her sister. But Kelly said in her relationship, she didn't want her daughter to stay in something like that anymore. She couldn't bear to think of being this example, that her daughter may feel like that she has to just grin and bear it, that she has to do it for the children, whatever the case may be, whatever your reason is. And so that really hit me hard of, I wouldn't want that for them, but yet I'm the example, the model. again, more to come with that. But I knew once again through my job loss transition that I am now picking up and moving my family again. And it was the hardest and has been the hardest on our son. He is a teenager now, but just going through all the middle school, preteen life things that he's going through. And then, oh, yeah, now we're going to move. We just moved you a year and a half ago because we thought that was a good idea. So that transition of new job, moving back to what I consider home, but still moving into a new house, figuring out all the things, helping my son through the transition, not to exclude my daughters. They are in school, in college. But that's a new thing for them. We'll talk about what they've been through as well as this move has taken place. But big transitions. And as I mentioned earlier in this episode, if you're feeling stuck in a place where you just feel like you can't move, like maybe you can't physically move, like you were like, I get home from work, I sit on the couch, and this is where I stay. Or like me, you stay in bed as long as you possibly can because you just don't want to face the day. And I know mental illness is a real thing, and it's something to think about too if you're needing to really reach out to resources. I certainly did when I started getting to the point of like, man, something's just got to give in this point in my relationship. But if you're feeling that way, where you're stuck in a place where you just cannot move, or you're looping in your head on things you wish you were doing, just ponder. I would ask you, if you're open to this, to just ponder what transitions you've been through in the past that you made it through. What hard things have you experienced? And listen, go way back if you need to. It maybe was a breakup with a boyfriend, your first love. Maybe it was your parents' divorce. Maybe it was a move to a new city. Think about those things that at the time they felt unbearable, that you were never going to make it through or never get out of a situation or never progress. Maybe it's in your job or career where you're just like, I feel like the ceiling is coming down and I'm not going anywhere. You are more resilient than you believe. And if you need to borrow belief, borrow it from me, because I know you can have the life you love and you are deserving of a beautiful life, of a beautiful career, of a beautiful family and relationships, of a beautiful body. We didn't even talk about that yet, but another part of my mission is to empower you to love this body you're in. And that's a journey all in and of itself. We as women are programmed from a very young age to want a certain way of looking. I grew up in the 90s. I already mentioned my last date was 1999. But in that time period, that skinny waif body was what was beautiful. Then there was kind of the Baywatch era where everyone started getting big boobs. And there's just so many things. It could be family pressures or the things you hear and see in your family or your friend groups. We won't even go into social media, but we see it and we feel it all the time. And my a big mission for me, a big just what I want for you. And I hope that I can walk you through that as we go along this journey in the podcast, is to just really enjoy this body, the body that you were born with, the body that's carried you across that stage when you graduated. If you were in sports, the one that hit the ball in the softball games, the one that ran the bases, or whatever the sport was you were in. If you've carried baby or babies, what an amazing thing that you've done. Maybe you've been through a surgery or two and you've healed. Your body is a gift. And I want you to feel that. So we'll talk about things as far as health, and especially as if you're with me, you're going through that perimenopause / maybe menopause. I don't know where I am in this journey right now sometimes, but you're going through that transition. And I called it the other day, it's reverse puberty. It's like we had this high, we were like this sensual, sexual being, and you're dating and maybe getting married and you're having kids and you're doing all the things that feels very womanly. And then it all starts to like fade away. And it's a beautiful period. I am kind of joking about it because it's also a really hard time. You're just like not recognizing yourself, or your body is feeling different. You're growing hairs in places. You're like, where did this thing come from? If you're watching on video, I'm pointing to my chin. You are maybe experiencing some weight gain because of the way your hormones are shifting. And whew, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to dive deep. One of the things that I'm really curious about is intermittent fasting. And I've tried it. I've tried to do it for the last probably week or so and not succeeded. I've learned a lot, though, about the foods I eat, the drinks I drink, how they make me feel. I think that's a big piece of my work too. I shouldn't say I think, it is, of just noticing. I mean, how do I feel about this? How did that dinner feel? Do I really need that energy drink? Maybe running's not for you. Maybe you really, really love to dance. It's like, well, how do you feel? How do you feel when you're moving your body like that? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about womanhood. We're going to talk about career, job, fulfillment in that area. We're going to talk about mindset as we go along. And I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be back on this platform. I didn't know how much I missed it until I started recording, but it's such a beautiful way to spend time with you. I know I'm talking to my computer and you're listening in your ear, but I do feel like we are connected and that we're not alone. I think that's so important because we aren't. We are here together right now, and we can continue together. So if something in this podcast spoke to you, if you are enjoying the content that you've heard today, I would so appreciate it if you would click subscribe if you are on YouTube, or do so also on whatever podcast you're listening to. That way it comes up in your feeds. If you're like me, I'm a mostly a Spotify listener, although I have a few on Apple Podcasts too that I listen to. I think they're on both, but for whatever reason, that's where I found them. So I listen. But, like the show, subscribe, follow, whatever the button is on your platform, because that really, really helps to hear next time I post a podcast. Would love your feedback too. Please leave a comment if you are loving this. Please, if you're like, you touched on this for a moment, or I didn't hear you talk about this. If there's something you want to hear, let me know. I am so open to discussing a topic. I will be bringing on guests again to the podcast. That was so fun for me to not only, again, have someone on the podcast with me, but also just share their experience and knowledge with you. Several of the people I brought on were coaches. So if there's an area in life that you are feeling like you want to work with a coach, I will certainly bring more folks here to you on the podcast. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook or LinkedIn, so any of those platforms, and if not, please come hang out with me there. But I talked about, number one, how many podcasts I listen to. I didn't share the number, but I listen to a lot. I truly enjoy that, especially on my commute to work. But one of the things that I do is I'm a reader. I love books and I tend to buy books. Whatever someone's selling on a podcast, if I connect with that person, if they say things that really speak to me, I will buy their book. So you'll see some of that content on my Instagram and Facebook. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be in your ear on your screen. It's been truly an honor just to be here in this let's see, we're almost at 40 minutes here. It's been a joy, and I can't wait to continue with you. I'll see you next time.